Jesus here. How y'all doing? I have a video today. I wanted to discuss the statistics of STABmons since I did play this tier quite dearly and did enjoy it quite a bit because I did get to use some of my favorite Pokemon that were otherwise not very usable. So as you can see, this is just the raw usage statistics. So espeon was up to 30%, or this is just, standard. Everybody, there's about 32,872 battles, which sounds like a pretty good sample. Let's see if we can compare it to like what standard OU had. So standard OU had 122,000 battles, and STABmons had 32,000. Wait, was that a million or 100,000? Damn it. Oh, that's a million. 1 million. Yeah, my bad. So 32,000, that's still pretty good for, an other metagame that nobody knows about. And to compare that, UU, which is something, only 172,000, RU 49. So it was getting about the same playage as RU was. So that's pretty neat to see. And the top 10 Pokemon in this tier, it seemed like Rain was way, way in ahead. The top thing to do is Politoed used about 24%. People really like their Kyurem-Black revenge killers, even though there was lots and lots of counters to it. I kind of felt something like Ursaring was much more difficult to counter because it did have that huge, humongous fake out extreme speed combo, and sableye coming in at number 8, getting that prankster Dark Void, which almost guarantees sleep. And then I suppose espeon, one of the big counters to that. A big reason why espeon was the top. And Keldeo, a great water spout choice scarf in the rain. Although it's with so much priority in the tier, there are so many things to break its water spout, so that was something kind of to offset that. And another interesting thing is burial. But burial used more often than Keldeo, used more often than Landorus, Thundurus, D, Jirachi. That is threatening. Be basically the only terror where burial actually makes sense, I suppose. Coming in at 7th, and one of my favorite all-time Pokemon, Aerodactyl, coming in at 6th at 18%, which is pretty damn cool. And Scizor is always going to be highly used almost in any meta game that it possibly can get into, coming in at 4th. And let's see if there's any. I think Metagross is actually a bit more of a monster than maybe some people realize. I kind of felt like it had a really good niche in walling something that coming in against something that uses extreme speed as main attack, and then having a little bit of defensive bulk, but also carrying that shift gear and a monstrous 130, basically 130 attack, 130 defense, somewhere around that. That's where Metagross is, with a good HP stat as well. It becomes a monster because with one shift gear, it basically gets up to 140 speed, which is going to outspeed most stuff. So it's really hard to find a counter for Metagross, because there are, in this tier, there's lots and lots of opportunities for Metagross to get a switch in because of the presence of powerful extreme speed users. Flareon, I liked using Flareon quite a bit, if you may remember. I thought he was quite useful. Quagsire getting pretty high usage, likely due to its unaware. Interesting to see Excadrill. I mean, Excadrill didn't really get anything extra from this tier. It's too frail to really have an opportunity to shift gear. But I suppose the same could be said about Excadrill's Metagross, is maybe there was an opportunity to shift gear. Maybe people didn't realize you could use some of the Ubers in this tier, and that's why Excadrill is so low. And other than that, I mean, everything else is looking pretty solid. Kangaskhan was the scrappy spinner, and that's why he's up there so high. And yeah, nothing else really surprises me down low in usage. There really isn't anything else that benefits too much. Like something like Escavalier is outclassed because it doesn't have enough speed to make good use of that shift gear. But yeah, things like Mew was really low. I did get that heart swap, which was actually way more difficult to use than I expected. But yeah, Mew wasn't really that good. Deoxys defense, not really seeing much use. Deoxys speed, not seeing much. Which Deoxys speed, the thing about this tier is there's lots of cool stuff that would have been like a Gliscor, a defensive Gliscor would have been a really good entry layer. But with the up-tempo pace of this tier, it was really hard to lay down entries, and with 29-30% of people carrying espeon on their team, yeah, it was just really hard to get layers up of anything. So yeah, nothing else really surprises me, and this is just the usage. I was hoping, oh yeah, here's the metagame analysis down here. So we go for STABmons, and 48% weatherless, 43% hyper offense, and that was the premise of this tier. It wasn't common to have a match that ended in like 10-15 turns, you know, stuff like if you let your opponent get a belly drum Swasbuck up, you're pretty screwed. Same thing if you let them get a belly drum Snorlax up, you're also pretty screwed. And yeah, weatherless offense 39%, 24% rain, which yeah, rain. There is so much stuff that picked up benefits from the rain, and not as much that picked up benefits from sand and sun. So as you can see there, and we have the moveset statistics. Let's check out the lead statistics here for STABmons. So there's a 65,000 leads, and nearly 12% just straight out loud with their Politoed. Aerodactyl is one that I liked using as a lead on a weatherless team with, you know, the Stealth Rocks plus that huge dual stab of Brave Bird Rock Smash or Head Smash with that ability that takes no recoil damage. Ursaring actually getting 3.5%, which is a bit surprising. Doesn't really seem like that viable for lead. And sableye, an annoying lead with that Dark Void. And T-Tar, Ninetales up there for their weather to their own regards. And Fortress Ferrothorn actually pretty high up there. But as I said before, both of them were pretty anti-meta and very much so setup fodder. Ferrothorn could do stuff like Spore, but as you know, as we know, espeons are everywhere. So yeah, that was kind of the other thing. And then if they lead something with a fire attack, he's pretty screwed. So nothing else really. There's no changes. We want to look into this as well. I want to see the this statistic here, which perhaps doesn't even. Oh, it does exist. Okay, so espeon here. Pretty interesting to see that 55% of espeons were carrying fist plates. And that may have been due to videos displaying that like espeon can use judgment plus fist plate and have a really strong fighting type attack, which is kind of cool. And I believe that the judgment also gets boosted by the power of fist plate as well as selecting the moves. That's pretty cool. Obviously 90, it should be 100% magic bounce. The only synchronized users were people that kind of forgot to set magic bounce. It actually seemed like almost 4% light clay, which is sort of interesting. That white herb and focus sash also very viable to use. Most were using a modest set, just full out, blow them out, attacking. 85% shell smash with, yeah, if you let this thing get a shell smash up, it was very scary. And then I had the move support pool kind of going between Side Strike, Stored Power, Judgment, and Shadow Ball, typically having, you know, one of those moves. Nothing else really was viable. Only 2% using Rapid Spin, which is kind of cool that it gets it. And as you can see, its teammates, its most common teammate was Barbario, which is sort of interesting. You know, not really a necessary teammate of a rain team. So its top check was Ursaring, which I believe if this thing got a shell smash up, it would get wrecked by a judgment with a fist plate. So yeah, 52% of Ursaring's OHKO'd or KO'd. I mean, an Ursaring's so powerful though, it would OHKO. And also Aerodactyl being a counter Burial. Probably Burial just to get like an E speed off and break it down to a lot of damage. Snorlax also because it's a Spadef wall that can also get extreme speed, which I like so dearly. So Politoed, there's not going to be too much to see fun about Politoed. It's a very standard and not really interesting whatsoever. But the only interesting difference is that 32% of people use a water spout, which most likely needs a choice scarf or something like that to be powerful enough. But Swashbucket's number one counter because it kind of walls a lot of stuff it can do, as well as Kyurem-Black, which, interesting. So here at Kyurem-Black, 36% using this adamant 4 HP set. Really interesting to see that only 56% use Ice Shard, which is pretty interesting. I guess stuff like Icicle Crash and Icicle Spear are also interesting and viable to use. Apparently it works best with a Ferrothorn, which does make a bunch of sense. Ferrothorn being able to take the hits that this guy doesn't want to take, as well as getting passive damage off with its Iron Barbs. Rachi as well. Obviously not a good teammate for Politoed because it doesn't really work out with the rain. So yeah, I usually just use the Choice Band Ice Shard set. As you can see, 21%, but 24% use leftovers. Some people use Lumberry, which also is quite viable. As getting up a Dragon Dance, I suppose this thing could just wreak havoc with Dragon Dance, Icicle Crash. The Fusion Bolt and Outrage, I guess that would be kind of a typical set. Yeah, it's checked quite easily by Metagross, which, that's another thing that Metagross just checks a lot of stuff in this tier. So that's a thing that I liked about Metagross a lot. So yeah, this is Scizor, mostly just using leftovers, and Gear Grind and Shift Gear being the top moves, which is pretty cool. Still 52% of people packing that. Bullet Punch, Bug Bite still popular, as Technician as being the obvious ability on this guy. And once again being checked by lots of stuff like Heatran, which I'm surprised Heatran even existed too much in this tier, but apparently being the top check to Scizor. Alright, here is another fun guy, Ursaring. So nobody wanted that quick feed. They all wanted that sheer power of guts. The power of guts. Ridiculousness. Usually just using a Flame Orb, which is all it really needs. The difference between Flame Orb and Toxic Orb is if it's very hyper offensive, the flow of the battle, Toxic Orb can be better because you will take less damage. But the thing about Flame Orb is that this guy's usually using Fake Out on coming in, so he's going to start racking up a lot of Toxic Orb damage quickly because Fake Out is an obvious move to go with this set. So Extreme Speed is obviously, that is like the crux of this set. Just, absolutely powerful. A stab, huge attack, Extreme Speed coming at you, and then CC and Crunch for excellent coverage along with that. Fake Out and Fire Punch could help deal with something like a Ferrothorn or like a Scizor that may switch in, and Espeon did do pretty well as a teammate as this guy, mostly because everybody just had Espeons, and yeah, sableye helps as well. Getting something to sleep, and his top counter was sableye, which is, that doesn't really make, because it's a ghost, that does make sense. But, realistically, he's probably still taking lots of damage from Crunch, and he can't burn, can't put it to sleep, so. But if actually sableye could take a Crunch and then OHKO it with a Foul Play, so that makes sense as a counter. And Skarmory, and Rachi, Metagross, a bunch of other things that we expect to be its counter. So we're going to move over here to Aerodactyl, another really fun mon. So 99% head smash, 97 bravery right away. That is just awesome. The sheer power. This thing is just so powerful. 130 base speed, great physical attack as well. So it's going to even be able to outspeed like some Choice Scarfed, a few like slower, like it should be able to outspeed a Scarf Politoed and some slower Choice Scarf users and stuff like that with its raw speed. Focus Sash being the most common. It can also use a band set and a Life Orb set because I don't believe it. Well, no, on this guy it's actually going to take recoil. Sash seems like one of the top things to use because he resists sand and yeah, lots of stuff. Just Okos it because it's pretty frail, but only 40% using rocks. That taunt also being useful. EQ is good for coverage, and yeah, that is basically that. And Metagross is a very, very hard counter, except for the fact that this thing packs EQ, which honestly, like if you Brave Bird first, then EQ, I don't think that's going to take a well-y spread Metagross out, and Metagross can just, if the sash isn't broken yet, it's going to take him out with a gear grind if you just, for some reason, really want to get rid of this thing, even though there's likely better ways to handle it. So we're going to go to the last monster in Barbarial. Of course, 78% sash, because this thing sort of thrived on being able to shell smash and live the attack, and then basically just be it banana speed, extreme speeding, Okoing like anything that's not steel, basically, as it does get Aqua Jet as well, which made it so useful on a rain team. Like that Aqua Jet was doing big damage to a lot of stuff, and then that Thunder as well was also a great supportive move because stuff like Jellicent that completely walls it. As you can see, Jellicent was the third best counter. Ferrothorn as well, also a great counter. That would be the reason to carry Superpower, I suppose, but you would be getting taken out by its Iron Barbs if you do decide to Superpower it. So that made Ferrothorn a really, really good counter to this Pokemon. And then, of course, Quagsire, just because it's unaware. If it has Water Absorb, that's... Oh, no, you want Unaware. No. But yeah, it's a physical wall that is unaware, and this thing can't really do much to it, which is pretty cool. And the last thing I want to show you, I believe, because there's nobody else that's really that cool. Oh no, I want to show you Swasbuck as well. So, Sableye, a prankster, an annoying prankster, but as you can see, Dark Void being the top move. Incredible. It also picks up Destiny Bond, which is a great, great move that it doesn't normally get, but couples with a prankster, that is ridiculous because it's always going to go first, and nobody's expecting a Destiny Bond from a Sableye, so you attack it and you go down to the Destiny Bond, so you can't set up on it. You're going to sleep otherwise, and then it can recover and foul play. I don't think Will-O-Wisp is that important in this tier because there's lots of stuff that use support of Flame Orbs like Ursaring. So yeah, that's basically even 8% using Curse, which is really interesting attack that Sableye also, well, I think Sableye normally gets Curse. Could not be 100% on that though. So yeah, that is, oh, it also picks up Memento, which I don't think it normally gets as well, which kind of cripples any Pokemon that's in there, but with so much stuff boosting up like crazy, that -2, -2, like -2, -2 to a Burial that's already +4 isn't going to hurt it that much. Like, you know, it's obviously just got a Destiny Bond take it down. And there's one more Pokemon. Obviously, Keldeo is kind of cool with Water Spout. That's basically was the strategy with Keldeo, and 31% Politoed, a great teammate of Politoed, obviously. So we're going to go over to Swasbuck because this was a really cool mod. It got Spore to set up, and then it got Belly Drum, which it was really, really hard. Like, if you didn't have espeon, you didn't have a really good counter to it, it was really, really difficult. And apparently under the checks and counters would be like, oh no, Ferrothorns, my bad. Where are the checks and counters to Swasbuck? They're not here. But yeah, it was really hard to block this thing, and especially if it gets chlorophyll on top of that. Another set could have been the Sap Sipper set, because it can come in and gain that attack boost from a predicted spore on a different Pokemon. I mean, obviously you would have to not have espeon on your team to make it a little bit more viable. But yeah, you basically can eat up that spore, and if it's something that can't do anything else to you, then you have a free turn to Belly Drum. This is basically the one Pokemon that there was tons of opportunities to get a Belly Drum up for free, given that it has a Spore to help it out, and then the other moves are basically Horn Leech and Extreme Speed. There really weren't other necessary moves, giving it, you know, not necessarily the greatest coverage, still not doing much to Steel types and stuff, but at +6, I don't think even, like the weaker, well, all Steel types are bulky, so yeah, that is kind of going to be difficult to deal with them, which is why you may want to carry Nature Power over Horn Leech or something like that, but that's not necessarily necessary. So yeah, it worked really well with Ninetales though to get that chlorophyll up, and Ninetales, obviously, since most people are carrying Politoed, was going to be a great counter to Rain. But that's where I'm going to leave off with. This is going to be the video. I just want to show you some of the really cool different Pokemon and how they were used in this tier. Hope you enjoyed, as I'm a bit of a statistics junkie, as you may see. So if you're not a stats guy, I'm sorry about this video. But I'm assuming you didn't make it this far if you didn't give a damn about stats. So that is going to be the video later. If you are viewing this video, Jesus has tragically passed away. Or you've reached the end of one of my videos. So here's a quick tutorial. I know, what the hell do we do here? Thumbs up button here. Let's do that. Let's see Facebook, Twitter, Finnish websites, Korean websites, whatever the hell those are. If your friends have them, here's a link. Copy that, share them. Comment section right here. Type something creative. Post it. And that one, boom, we can always thumbs down it if it's not creative enough. There you go.